Hello, everybody. This is Florian Munch from Mining Scout. And today I have a special guest here who is a PhD a geoscientist from Geneva, Switzerland. He had done a postdoc at MIT, worked for Rio Tinto and as a leader for several companies in the junior space. So welcome here, Alexander Miskovic.
Good day to you, Florian. Thank you for inviting me, to you and your subscribers in the audience. Happy New Year.
Thanks a lot. Yeah, Happy New Year to you as well. I hope I did the introduction roughly right. So let's dig into it. So you are CEO of Terra Balcanica. Maybe before we start talking about the company and the projects, give us a little bit of a background about yourself.
Yes. So I'm a geologist, a geochemist. I've worked in the volcanic and plutonic rocks all my life. Lately, been exposed to the mineral deposit context of them and good things they host. Did my PhD at the University of Geneva, working on the Peruvian rocks, the evolution of the Peruvian Eastern Caldera. Subsequent to that, I was at MIT as an experimental petrologist for about 2 years, learning about the way rocks really form in the deep planetary interiors, and then held a bunch of different positions since then. I was a diamond geologist with the federal government of Canada in the Canadian Arctic for 2 years, liaisoning with the University of Alberta as well as many different diamond mines in the Canadian North. And then following that, I was for 4 years at the University of British Columbia Mineral Deposit Research Unit, where I led MDRU's largest mineral academic industry consortium called the Western Tethyan Metallogenic Project. We had 8 graduate students, 3 PhDs, and 5 master students, and we worked and covered the entire region all the way from Bosnia to Pakistan, really. That's the Balkan Peninsula, Greece, the Caucasus, and Iran, looking at the metallogenic settings and prospecting and identification and understanding of all the major, especially porphyry, copper, and gold epithermal deposits along the belt. When that was done, I worked for a Canadian junior explorer, also operational in the Balkans, Medgold Resources, for about a year and a half, where I held the position of a regional manager. And then after that, for 2 years with Rio Tinto in California, working with their lithium and borates division, where I was leading a group of engineers and scientists focused on extracting lithium from clay-hosted tailings in Rio's mine in Boron, California. And then, of course, the pandemic hit. I returned back to Canada to my family, and then decided to commence my journey with Terra Balcanica, which has been very successful over the course of the last 2.5 years. So, yeah, I've been Chief Executive Officer and President since September of 2020.
It's a new venture, yeah, and you've returned to the Balkans as a professional, as a specialist for the geology in the Balkans. So tell us a little bit more about the general geology in this part of the Tethyan Belt, and also what's in there for opportunities and also for investors, and maybe touch on the jurisdiction you're in.
For sure. So the Balkan Peninsula, given its size, which is actually not that tremendously large in the context of global metallogenic belts, I think is truly a tier 1 global mining district, considering, well, let's just look at the metrics of amount of pounds of copper or ounces of gold extracted over this relatively small area, let's say in the last 50 years. It would certainly rank it, if you divide it by square miles or square kilometers, it would rank it up there, together with some of the, much more better understood and better known jurisdictions: Nevada, Yukon, BC, South American Andes. So I think, having said that, the area really is, at least when it comes to Bosnia, relatively underexplored. Serbia has seen a little bit of a renaissance in terms of exploration, so let's say since 2005. So for the last 15 years or so, quite a lot of Canadian and Australian companies have been exploring in the region, juniors as well as some global giants such as Rio Tinto, and the discovery of 135 million ton lithium oxide deposit in the other area back in 2006. and its development since then shows and is a testament to the fact that this region truly holds some of the world-class deposits, both in the metallic and I guess battery metal space. Um, Returning back to Bosnia, I mean, obviously everybody, who's even vaguely familiar with the region knows of the success story that is Adriatic Metals, who have discovered and advanced their Rupice and Marish silver project right now to the point where they're actually building a mine at the moment. But except for them, in Bosnia, there's actually really not that much in terms of Western companies. We have Mineko, a privately held entity that owns a few mines in Bosnia and a few of them in Serbia as well. There's us, Terra Balcanica, and there's Lycos Metals, an Australian listed company. So, for a country that I think also contains quite a significant amount of mineral wealth, uh, I would even say comparable to Serbia. Unlike Serbia, that has seen at least a dozen, if not more, companies exploring the region over the course of the last 2 decades, Bosnia has actually not been, privy to that yet. I think the situation is going to change soon, and it's not going to be like that for long. But the region certainly holds potential. Briefly, geologically, so this is part of the Tethyan orogeny. We are particularly focused on the Neo-Tethyan evolution, so the Alpine orogeny. The story is more or less 50 million years old and younger. And again, looking at the kind of standard Balkan style epithermal vein-hosted mineralizations, such as lead, zinc, silver, massive sulfide veins, usually very shallow to surface. But also, we are not denying the fact that there's quite a lot of skarn and porphyry copper targets in the area. The region where Terra is focusing on has never been really looked at from that standpoint, and therein lies the opportunity for us.
Excellent. So you are located with 2 projects in Serbia, and your flagship project is located in Bosnia and Herzegovina. So elaborate a little bit about maybe mainly the flagship project.
So we are situated in the eastern part of the Bosnia and Herzegovina. Geologically speaking, the area is known as Srebrenica magmatic complex. It's a 30.5 million year old volcano-plutonic complex. It contains both intrusive rocks and a volcanic component. The area has been known as a mining district since the Roman times. Argentia was the ancient name of Srebrenica in Roman times, of course, alluding to silver. The area has been also a place where medieval Bosnian and Serbian kings minted their coins. And then, of course, during the Socialist Federal Republic of Yugoslavia era, it has been explored in a relatively modern context for about 40 years prior to the civil war that took place in Bosnia. So it is a fairly extensive, let's say 200 square kilometer volcanic complex with an operating mine in the center and a history of mining. So fairly well-developed mining district. Having said that, except for the exploring of these high-grade epithermal and intermediate sulfidation veins that has been conducted during the Yugoslav era and now by Mineko, this is the Sase mine, which is located right in the center. Nobody has really looked at this complex from a standpoint, well, does it really hold anything else? What else can we find? Yeah. And this is where Terra Balcanica came in, really with a couple of hypotheses. I wouldn't call them outrageous, because in the volcanic complexes of these kinds, it is almost normal to expect a variety of different deposits. And lo and behold, we do see them in Serbia. So when you move further down orogenic strike towards the southeast, towards Greece, in Serbia, volcanic complexes of this age do host porphyry copper deposits. For example, Raška district in Serbia, Rudnica project that is actually now owned by Adriatic, previously owned by Tethyan Resources, etc., etc. So we do have occurrences of, Avila Resources, a spin-off of Dundee Precious Metals, explored, and it still holds a license over Kiseljak porphyry in southern Serbia, very close to the administrative border with Kosovo, which is 0.3 gold copper, and at the scale of some 350 million tons. So these deposits and these occurrences do show up, and we were thinking, okay, well, nobody has thought of a porphyry copper deposit underneath the Srebrenica magmatic complex. do we think it's there? And this is this is the premise we've started with back in September of 2020, and then really applied very rigorous, systematic, deliberately tedious approach over the course of the existence of Terra as a private entity for about a year and a half, I would say, where we have expended a lot of money, conducted many a survey, geophysical and geochemical, including for almost 1,400 line kilometer airborne geophysical survey,
Yeah.
to really try to see, well, first of all, is there anything else beyond epithermal systems? And if there is, can we identify those targets fairly rapidly?
Question
So,
here, are
yeah.
these epithermal systems company maker enough for you, or are you really elephant hunting for the big porphyry?
I would say both. Obviously, these shallow. When I say shallow, I mean they run not more than. I mean, in other words, the what we are drilling is only about 30, 40, 50, 60, up to 100 meters deep, and really high grade. In particularly, I'm speaking of Chumavici system. I think they are. I mean, what we see right now is, in other words, nothing suggests to us that the system is broken up or fragmented or segmented in any way, and the strike length is certainly there. The press release that comes out today, it will certainly speaks about a stepping out of our initial cluster, and we are quite confident that the upcoming drill program that we plan for this year is basically going to be fairly simple. Just carry on along the strike towards the northwest, but also towards the southeast, and see basically the continuity and the grade of the system. In other words, trying to understand and define its subsurface geometry. Now, Brezheny, which is entirely different, about 17 kilometers as the crow flies to the southeast of Chumavici, is a brand new discovery. Nobody has ever thought of it. Nobody has ever contemplated it. We have discovered it basically based on geophysics, deep penetrating geophysics, airborne geophysics. And that one is a skarn on surface. So it's a gold skarn. Gold mineralization commences from the very surface. Our press release from September of last year basically speaks of the fact that our trenching intercepted gold on surface. Yet, what the true and real target there is, what the cherry that we are aiming for, the ultimate goal, is actually that 350 to 400 meter deep, very conductive zone that we interpret to be some sort of massive sulfide or similar to that, interconnected, obviously, so as to give the conductive signature that runs up to 65, 70 millisiemens per meter. And our drilling is going to be focused on that. The skarn, gold skarn occurrence on the surface is, in a sense, surprise, and I think an added benefit to the whole story. But we ultimately do seek, I don't want to call it an elephant, but certainly something very interesting in deep subsurface. So yeah, there's a both.
The recent drilling program, what was the results, and what have you done so far with the drilling?
Right. So in 2022, we have completed about 2,000 meters of drilling. The goal behind that really is to test hypotheses on all of these previously defined targets. So a year and a half of defining targets, very systematic. I mean, we've collected over 3,000 soil samples, close to 400 rock chip samples, flown geophysics, ground radiometry, name it, remote sensing, use satellites, and to really try to give ourselves the best possible chance of intersecting something interesting right off the bat. And once we became public in June of last year, then the idea was to just drill. And that's exactly what we've done. So over the course of those 2,000 meters drilled, we have really, I think now, confirmed the existence of shallow, high-grade lead, zinc, silver, gold antimony system in Chumavici. We have confirmed the presence of gold at surface and for quite considerable depth as well, I would say, at the Brezheny target. And ultimately, we aim to confirm the presence, or at least understand geologically what that deep conductor at Brezheny is. There's a third target there as well called Olovine. That one is not a skarn like Brezheny. That's just a pure, in our thought, in our thinking, pure porphyry target, moly copper porphyry, because we do see elevated moly in the core that we have drilled in Olovine to about extent of 400 meters. Obviously, that's going to be released as well fairly soon. However, we still haven't penetrated all the way to the conductor area as well. These targets are obviously very deep, they're expensive holes, and one has to be very deliberate as to how one approaches porphyry exploration. But again, we're not going to go away from them. We have identified them, and we indeed want to confirm whether they hold the promise.
Okay, yeah. So our investors, I would say, they should be impressed about your level of detail and your commitment and your expertise here. They could be impressed with the results you already delivered. So that depends on their due diligence. But tell us a little bit more about what are you going to do. So that's what's not priced in yet. What's interesting? Where's the upside here?
So, okay, of course, I mean, so far I've been talking about Bosnia mostly, and that is our primary goal. So for 2023, we aim to, in a sense, unfold this project and try to really, at least when it comes to Čumavići high-grade silver, lead, zinc mineralized system, push it very close to, let's say, preliminary mineral assessment or estimate zone. Whether that's going to happen in the first or second quarter of 2024, I'm not sure, but that's basically what we want to do with about 4.5 to 5,000 meters of drilling on Čumavići alone. We expect about 3,000 meters of drilling on Brezheny, divide that into, let's say, 4 or 5 deep holes. Obviously, everything's going to depend on the success of a previous hole. We're going to stop if we don't see that things are not yielding fruit and benefit. But and about, let's say, 1,500 meters at Olovinec. So when you come that or put that together, let's say about 8,500 meters of drilling in Via Gorzanik as well. Having said that, let's not forget Ceovište and Kaludra, two fairly prospective and most importantly drill-ready properties in Serbia that have also seen quite a significant amount of targeting. And over there, we one step behind. In a sense, we are yet to confirm the hypothesis. Everything on the surface suggests that area is very prospective. Kaludra being more of a Balkan-style lead zinc silver, high-grade epithermal zone, whereas Ceovište, in my mind, is just a very high-grade gold target. Previously explored a little bit by French in 1939 using some old techniques of horizontal excavation and additing, but nobody has ever drilled it. So neither of those properties have seen drilling. So there's an upside to that, and we do expect to go after, let's say, 1,200 meters on both. So when you put everything together, about 10,000 meters of drilling is what is expected this year. Obviously, that's our hope and our desire. How far we're going to go down that process depends on multiple different factors, but obviously we do want to refinance sometime in, let's say, next 2 to 3 months, so as to provide funds for that particular campaign. Obviously, being very cognizant that we put and allocate as much of that of those funds and that cash into the ground where the real value really comes from.
Okay, we will touch on this later with the funding. Just to close the previous section. So for 2023, what's your plan for this year?
So yeah, for this year, let's say we plan to start drilling sometime in April. We'll commence with Čumavići, 4,500 meters of Đulomići along a fence towards northwest and also along the southeast, trying to confirm the grade and the geometry of this, we call it Čumavići vein system. It's really one vein, but with multiple splays on the side. And then in doing so, really get a better understanding of not only the geometry and grade, but also maybe metallurgy. Start working with metallurgical samples as well, so as to get ready for preliminary mineral assessment next year. When it comes to Brezheny, obviously we have to confirm that this deep conductor indeed is what we believe it is. But again, added benefit for the Brezheny story is that we seem to have gold on surface. So however we step, in whichever direction we step, we are fairly confident within that envelope of about 400 to 500 meters, we're going to be hitting gold from the very surface.
So lots of exploration work coming, and of course lots of news flow. Yeah, and that's
absolutely
always
all of this is going to be released right away. We are very excited, genuinely excited from a technical standpoint, which is, I think, what makes a project to really explore the extent of Čumavići vein, to look at what the conductor is, and also see what Olovine are. But again, you never know. I mean, these things sometimes unfold in a very unpredictable ways. Who knows? Maybe one of the Serbian properties is a big surprise to us, and we end up focusing on that as well.
You could have a new flagship. You will see, right. Exploring.
Well, that's the beauty. I mean, we have from a very beginning identified ourselves as a multi-jurisdictional, quote unquote, regional explorer, and we do want to artificially forsake one country over the other, but the clear focus is on Via Gorzanik for sure.
All right. Yeah. Let's talk a bit about the stock itself, shareholdings, and your current financial situation.
Great. So we have just completed $500,000 Canadian financing, oversubscribed. It took us less than a month to do so, completed just before Christmas time. Those funds were really intended to be spent on current operations, both in Canada and overseas. So to put us in a position that we can weather this macroeconomic storm that we're all witnesses of in a fairly comfortable fashion, and maintain our fairly intensive field operations, maintain our staff, not lose talent, etc., etc. However, when it comes to the actual drilling and everything, all those ambitious plans I've mentioned, we are obviously going to be looking into raising additional funds fairly soon. You can drill in the Balkans as early as February, not hugely advisable. April is probably a much better time, so it's almost perfect for us to, on the wings of the upcoming next few releases, which we intend to release over the course of the next 45 days or so, get the share price to the levels that it's not going to be overly diluted whenever is it that we decide to refinance. The drilling cost in the Balkans is about $230 to $250 Canadian per meter. That's all inclusive, including the assays in the lab, which is very, very competitive. When I hear how much it costs to do exactly the same thing in North America, or let's say South America, despite the fact that there's been inflationary pressure and the price of consumables and fuel has gone up, as you probably know that very well, being Euro-based, it's still fairly competitive. So, 10,000 meters for $2.5 million, it can certainly be done. Now, are we going to go for all of that amount, and what exactly the amount that we wish to raise is going to be in the end? It depends to be decided over the course of the next month and a half or two. But yeah, I mean, there's no time to waste. There's no time to not dedicate to our primary goal, which is to push this project ahead quite aggressively. And for that, we'll need funds. And hopefully the share price gets to the level that I mean, right now it's sitting at about 8.5, 9 cents Canadian. Obviously every CEO is going to say the same thing, which is, we believe it's undervalued. I generally do believe, especially in the context of the grades that have been releasing from Chumanichi, which I would say are, I don't want to say spectacular, but very, very good. And hopefully that gets reflected in the share price soon.
Yeah, and you and the other management and directors, you are owners of the company, so you own a big chunk. And you have an interest in making this work.
I mean, the whole thing started correctly as myself and my partner, Alex Ilic, we are co-founders, but then obviously the rest of the board got involved. And together with close associates and insiders, I would say that over 50% of the company is owned by us. And there's a continuous, obviously, purchasing that keeps on taking place by all the board members continuously, because we do see the value and the prospect in this company. Now, and obviously the share price so far hasn't really, for various reasons, been at the level we released it at 20 cents Canadian. Then there was a bit of a down, selling pressure right off the gates or out of the gates initially, but hopefully that all of that is going to turn. We're entering a new year. Tax selling season is over. Commodity cycle seems to be kind of looking
gold
better.
Price is looking good, yeah. So commodities in general, not too bad.
Precisely. And the beauty of Terra is that we are genuinely exposed, not because we want it to be, but because the nature was such in the Balkans that it actually does give us all of these commodities. And we are kind of exposed to not only the precious metal baskets, such as gold and silver, but also to the, green transition, if you want to call it, zinc, copper, lead basket as well. And, I must say also actively looking into expanding our portfolio as well.
Okay, yeah, we are looking forward to hear more about that. I'm sure you cannot speak about everything here, what's in your mind, but keep us updated, please. Yeah,
sure.
Thank you very much for the interview, Alex. Yeah, and good luck. And
thank you, Florian. Thanks for your questions, and all the very best to you and your audiences.
Thank you very much. Bye-bye.
All the best.